everyone. Welcome to Switchblade Sisters Social Club, the true crime podcast where two friends exploit their worst fears for your entertainment.
You're welcome.
I'm Dee, a writer and podcaster.
And I'm Isla from Criminally Good Books, a true crime and crime fiction bookshop in York.
Follow us on all the socials.
Except for X, obviously.
Or have a look at our website, switchbladesisterssocialclub.com.
Check them out for all our latest episodes, events, deals, and other weird stuff.
Listeners' discretion advised. Hello.
Hi.
So last week, you did Catherine Knight in Australia.
Yep. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, it was incredibly dark. I know that it's weird saying that on a true crime podcast, but there are some cases that are just more twisted than others, and that was definitely one. So today I'm going to do a case that is more, I don't know, it's not that it's lighthearted because it covers a bunch of serious issues. Part of it is because it's very old-timey, which makes it...
Ooh, I like an old-timey.
Yeah, we love an old-timey one, and I think it's a bit because it's like a bit of distance, you know, time-wise from today. So, but I also picked it because even though it's old-timey, it just feels like it could have happened yesterday, which is kind of sad and scary. But there's also plenty of opportunities for some inappropriate jokes because today I'm going to cover the Nottingham cheese riot. You heard right. The Nottingham cheese riot of 1766, also known as the Great Cheese Riot. Have you heard of it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm genuinely really excited. Because
I know. I was like, what? I need to read all about that. You know how I feel about cheese. Yeah. Cheese, also known as the only reason I'm not vegan instead of just vegetarian. And yes, I know that they're getting better at making vegan cheeses, but it's still not the same, and it's still not the wide variety of cheeses that I need in my life. Anyways, this isn't about me. So I know that the Nottingham cheese riot does sound comical, but it was like a lot of food riots. That's food riots, not food fights, due to food scarcity issues. So I'm going way, way back. And first I wanted to talk a little bit about Nottingham, because I feel like unless you're from Nottingham, you probably don't know much about Nottingham. So if you are not English, if you're not British, and you're like, where the hell is Nottingham? What's Nottingham about? You're not the only one. We feel the same here. And I'm sure it's got a lot.
I don't know anything about Nottingham.
I've never been. I once met a boy from Nottingham. That's it. So here's something pretty cool. It's got over 800 caves beneath it.
Surely it's just one big hole then.
I know. I was like, having watched a lot of sinkhole reels on Instagram, I was like, yeah, that sounds like a sinkhole waiting to happen. But it's got like a bunch of cool landscape. I'm going to show you.
I know like Sheriff of Nottingham from like Robin Hood. That's about it.
Yeah, that's coming up, obviously. All right. So this is like its landscape. Look at all those caves. Doesn't that look cool?
Oh my gosh.
So what we're showing you is like a mound, which has got like sort of grass on the top and everything, but it's obviously stone mound type thing, and it's got caves in it, you can see, and they probably go quite deep under. But then there's a building on the side of it and a building on top of it.
Looks like there's one on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it looks really nice.
Doesn't look the most stable structure to build houses on, but I guess you've got limited options in Nottingham if there's that many hills. Yeah, so people have been carving caves in the sandstone. Some of them are natural, some are man-made, but it's a soft sandstone in that region. And some of these caves have been used as homes, tanneries, air raid shelters, and even pubs. And you can go visit them to this day.
I love using nature, like using what's around you, like a house built into the rocks. It's like a Masada, and also you've got like religious buildings built into the rocks and stuff, don't you?
Or like I went to Cappadocia in Turkey, which was basically Gorame means invisible in Turkish, because basically from above you could barely see this town because it was all up until about the 60s. It was all in the rocks, like all the houses and everything were in the rocks. So you could barely see a human structure from the outside, which is pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Robin Hood is basically the city's brand ambassador. As you said, that was the first thing you thought of when you heard Nottingham, and it's for a lot of us it is. The Sheriff of Nottingham is who was the villain in the piece, right? So It's still unclear whether Robin Hood was real or not. He was definitely kind of based on a bunch of people in history. I mean, that, highwaymen was very common. So, between some of the outlaws, there was a sense of community, which then got extrapolated into Robin Hood, who stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Yeah, so he's forever linked to Nottingham and the nearby Sherwood Forest. And the city leans into it real hard, as you can imagine. There's statues, festivals, archery everywhere. Like they're all about Robin Hood, right?
Yeah.
But also, Robin Hood is not the only sort of celebrity. D.H. Lawrence, the writer, was also from there. He was the one who wrote Sons and Lovers, which was inspired by the mining communities in the area. This one I loved because this little fact about Nottingham, it's got one of the oldest pubs. And, so many places in the UK claim to have the oldest pub, right?
Is it the old Jerusalem?
Yes. How did you
know?
Oh
my God, I have been.
What? You've been to Nottingham?
Yeah, I have been.
Yes,
I've been there. Oh my God, I know now. Okay. I was like, haven't been to Nottingham. And then I remember the Robin Hood statues. And then
and you're like, was that a fever dream or have I been to Nottingham? So why did you go to Nottingham?
Let's just see if it is the same. No, I've been. I went with Paul that we used to work with. Paul Williams.
What, did you just meet up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't tell you. Yeah, I have been there.
Oh, that wasn't me going, oh, right, why wasn't I told?
I've been there.
Just
Sorry?
Hilarious that you forgot that you'd been there. Yeah, so...
But it's an amazing pub.
Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem, which I can imagine he took you to. Paul Williams, hello, Paul. We worked with you at St. John of Jerusalem Eye Hospital, so he actually lived in Jerusalem for a while. That's where I'm from. Yeah, so it looks like a gorgeous country pub. It's sort of like whitewashed. It says on it, the oldest inn in England, so they're obviously claiming it. And it looks gorgeous, so I hope to go there.
I'm just going to show you my picture that I took outside from a different angle.
That's hilarious. Please upload to the folder. We'll share it on Insta.
I will do. Oh my gosh.
So this pub claims to go back to 1189. So it would have been named after or for the pilgrims or the crusaders going to Jerusalem, if it's called Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem. And it's built into the rock beneath the castle, which is truly cool. So Nottingham, next Nottingham fact, was also known for bicycle manufacturing, rally bikes,
Oh, yeah.
They were manufactured in Nottingham. I know when I was looking at facts, I was like, I'm not going to know cycling stuff, but I do remember rally bikes. I'm sure I had one. Very big brand. At its peak, Raleigh was the largest bicycle manufacturer in the world. So that would explain why even I know it. And Nottingham was part of one of the big movers and shakers in the Industrial Revolution. The Luddite movement was workers protesting against textile machinery. You know what, like the slur Luddite means someone who doesn't like technology or whatever. And it's because the Luddite movement wanted to go back away from machines to sort of man-made, handmade, et cetera, et cetera. That movement had really strong roots in Nottingham in the early 19th century. So it was basically ground zero for this rebellion against machines stealing our job, because that's not a new thing. It's always been an issue for the laborers. Mortimer's Hole was a royal murder escape route beneath Nottingham Castle. So there's this thing called Mortimer's Hole, which is a steep tunnel carved into the rock. And in 1330, teenage King Edward III used it to storm the castle and arrest his mother's lover, Roger Mortimer. Mortimer was dragged out, tried for treason and hanged at Tyburn. So basically, the teenage boy killed his stepdad, basically, his mum's boyfriend. They just happened to be royals. So it was a medieval coup via a secret cave staircase. Totally normal, right?
Sounds such a fascinating place, though.
I know. We should have a field trip there. I mean, definitely. Enough, but you should try with me one day. So the plague pits beneath the city. During the outbreaks of the plague, bodies were needed to be buried quickly and were quite often buried in mass graves. That's not Nottingham specific. That happened across the world. And some historians believe that parts of Nottingham's cave system were used in both the outbreaks of the 14th and 17th century. So there's, probably a lot of human bones in these caves. They would have been very conveniently already dug out for these mass graves. So that's a bit of Nottingham. But let's go back to the cheese riots, I hear you say. So
yes.
I know. I want to stress it is very serious.
Okay.
In the sense of like what sparks this cheese riot and this, that, and the other. But just the fact that during these riots, the main weapon of choice was rounds of cheese.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's going to be kind of funny in it. So picture this: cobbled streets, a steep incline, and a large object gathering speed down this hill. It's not a cannonball. It's not a runaway carriage. It's a cheese. And it's not even a metaphorical cheese. It's an 18th century, extremely solid, Gloucester adjacent round of cheese. So in October 1766 in Nottingham, this cheese helped spark one of the most bizarre and surprisingly deadly public disorders in British history. This is the Nottingham cheese riot. So let's rewind. It is the Goose Fair in Nottingham, the 2nd of October, 1766. Now, the Goose Fair, now still going. Now it's all like artisanal candles and 7-pound brownies and theme park, like roller coasters and, But at the time, it was huge. There were thousands of people, traders from the surrounding counties, with livestock. It was mainly geese, or a large part of geese. So people were literally herding geese, thousands of geese, to this Goose Fair.
Wow.
To trade their geese.
Wow.
And also things like cloth and ale and obviously cheese. So this fair is over 700 years old. Some say it's closer to 1,000 years old. And in the 1100s, it was granted like this royal warrant or approval or whatever, meaning that you couldn't have competing merchants or fairs or anything like that in the area while the Goose Fair was going on. So that's a big deal, isn't it?
That's cool.
There's not online shopping or whatever. It's like, right, this is the only place at this time of the month that you can go and buy these things. So you're going to have to go there, right? Or sell these things also. It was only cancelled 4 times in this whole time. Once during one of the plagues, once during World War I, once during World War II, and once during COVID. So like I said, it's still going today. If you're American, I get the impression it's kind of like the state or county fairs if you're American. So these used to be all about livestock, and they still probably are to an extent where you'd go and buy your cattle or whatever. But now it's more of like a thing that lots of people go to, like a fair / market /
When is it on? Like, is it every, how often?
How often is the Nottingham Goose Fair annual event? And it seems to be like about a week long, end of September, beginning of October, which is exactly lines up with this. It was the 2nd of October, 1766. So here's the problem, though. Food prices at the time were really, really high. So they were having a cosy live problem as well at the time. It was soon after the war, the 7-year war with France, which means not only was there a period of a lot of the workforce being taken away from their agriculture, labor, et cetera, and off to war, but also many of them didn't come back. And also all of the other problems that are associated with war and the recovery period after war. But there was also weather that wasn't conducive to the crop growing and a bunch of other stuff that meant that they were just having a bad time food-wise. Interestingly, Nottingham was less affected because Nottingham is a major cheese producer, and cheese was one of the less affected industries. It wasn't so reliant on the weather, for example. So the fact that you were having bad weather did not affect the cheese output as much. But basically, at the time in the 18th century in England, food riots were not uncommon. It was quite often like mobs at things like these markets and these fairs where they were congregating anyways and trying to buy food at ridiculously high prices and so forth. And so quite often the communities would try to get together and try to introduce what they thought would be fair prices. So it's kind of like community action, or what historians call moral economy. the belief that food should be sold locally at reasonable prices before being exported elsewhere for profit. Because this is also a time where people in England were starting to realize that, okay, I'm producing my cheese here, but if I sell it actually in York, for example, where they don't produce cheese, I can charge more. So they would produce their cheese in Nottingham, not sell it cheaply to the local people of Nottingham, but they would export it to York, where they make people in York pay a lot for it. So what it means is that there's scarcity in the places that are actually even producing it, and the price is increasing all around the country for all of these things.
Yeah,
so this is a bizarre notion for us, at the moment. It takes a while for us here in England to wrap our heads around it, because we don't eat seasonally anymore. My mum will tell you, oh, it's March, it's not the season for blah, 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 because she's of the generation that still ate a bit more seasonally. I don't know the seasons for anything, because when I go to the supermarket, I can get strawberries throughout the year. I can get asparagus throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
We don't have that notion.
I agree with you, but I do think that when, particularly in York, they've got fruit and veg stalls, and although a lot of it's imported, when you get the big fat juicy British, strawberries, and then the really nice local asparagus, you definitely see the difference.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can get everything throughout the year.
And that's the only time I think,
I would know that strawberries are in.
But that's the only time I know, oh, it must be strawberry season, because I see some tasty strawberries around and I go, oh, actually, they look nice. But the fact that we have artificial agriculture in this country, grow tents and this, that, and the other, and the fact that we import everything. So when there's a scarcity of something that we need or want, we import it from somewhere else. And yes, it might be a bit more expensive and we will bitch and moan about that, but it's not like we have the same kind of lack of food that they used to have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So it's a totally different time. So it's important to put ourselves in the mindset of people eating seasonally, people not importing and exporting food far. I mean, we're talking about going to neighboring counties rather than, but basically it's just incredibly difficult because, like I said, these merchants are starting to realize if we go a couple of miles up the road, we can sell our cheese for much more. Or if we bring our asparagus here or a rhubarb here, apparently there's a rhubarb triangle roundabout Norfolk way. If we bring our rhubarb outside of the rhubarb triangle, we can charge X amount more, The
rhubarb triangle. Oh my gosh, that's great. I've never heard of such a thing.
It sounds like a name for your naughty spot, doesn't it? My rhubarb triangle.
Your rhubarb triangle.
But if your children are hungry,
the rhubarb triangle.
Sorry, going on from rhubarb triangle to talking about kids. But if your kids are hungry and you've got hundreds and hundreds of pounds of cheese being carted off to London or Leicester or whatever to make a better deal, that doesn't feel like a trade. That feels like a betrayal,
Mm-hmm. Especially if those locals are working in the industry perhaps as well, or contributing in some way, or they're maybe unemployed and want to have jobs in that industry.
And this is an issue, a topic that's coming up obviously with Trump trying to introduce tariffs and everything.
Trying, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And, on the one hand, the tariffs are, he's not doing it for this reason, but tariffs are often introduced to help support local economies. Trump's not doing it with that in mind, and that's why it might not work for that benefit. He's doing it as a massive fuck you to the countries that have pissed him off. Which is not the reason to introduce tariffs.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about sort of global economy stuff to know what the possible outcomes might be. But, I'm nervous of anything that Trump introduces because, like I said, even if it might have some merit, it's never done with good intention, I don't think. And therefore, it's less likely to have a sustained positive effect, let's say. Anyway, so like I said, Nottingham was okay during a lot of the food scarcity issues because they were such a massive cheese producer, which was less affected by failing crops, bad weather, the lack of the workforce. Maybe it was an industry that was better at introducing women during the wars or something, hopefully. Who knows? So they had a lot of cheese. And I like their Nottingham attitude of we're fine as long as we can eat cheese, until...
totally with them.
Yeah. Until one day, this particular day, the 2nd of October, 1766, when you got a bunch of Lincolnshire traders arriving in Nottingham, and they began to buy up large quantities of the cheese because they realized we can buy it in Nottingham cheap, where they produce a lot of it, supply and demand, right? And then we bring it up to Lincolnshire area where there's less cheese and we can sell it at a higher price. Obviously, that's how economies work. So they came down, they bought large quantities, the kind of quantities that I think would make you have very bad dreams if you ate it all at night. Have you ever had bad dreams from eating cheese late at night?
No, no. The only bad dreams I've had would be like linked to like consuming something as like alcohol or like not really having a good sleep if I've had alcohol, but not cheese or eating late at night. No.
I mean, I've woken up in the night to go and have a cheese snack. So, like most of my midnight snacks are cheese based. So, anyways, but you can see the tension is building, right? Because then these sellers in Nottingham are like, well, maybe we don't sell it to the locals at our normal price. Maybe we increase the price. We've got these Lincoln people. So, in their eyes, win-win. We can charge a higher price for it to these Lincolnshire people.
To everyone.
They think they're getting a bargain and they're going to make profit anyways because they're going to take it back and sell it at an even higher price. Meanwhile, the economy is getting inflated and suddenly no one can afford anything. So the tension is building. And all the locals at the fair are being frozen out of buying cheese. So reports describe rude lads, in quotation marks, confronting the traders. And basically the 1766 equivalent of youths, the youths. Rude lads.
Rude lads.
But it wasn't just rowdy teenage boys. They also said that like women and children and all sorts were carrying cheese away once things escalated. So basically they were looting.
Stealing. Looting, yeah.
And it wasn't just like random individuals. It was like communal. Exactly like when you see mass looting, right? It's just like mob mentality, mob anonymity. Everyone's just
like,
yeah. Also, pre-CCTV camera, they're like, nah.
Oh, yeah.
So
unless there's a sketch artist there, they're not going to get caught.
Just, can you stand still for 45 minutes while I just capture your likeness? It was around 7 p.m. and tension started boiling over. And the crowd, in quotation marks, from one of my sources, fell upon the heaps of cheese, which sounds like heaven to me.
Fell upon them.
Fell upon the cheese, but they seized
you
it.
You would love to fall upon a heap of cheese.
Oh my God, the dream.
Your dream.
In my mind, it's like grated mozzarella, so it's soft, you know? Or like a nice brie.
Love a good murder? Come visit me, Isla, at Crimley Good Books in York, your one-stop shop for crime fiction and true crime reads, as well as gifts and author events. Or browse online at crimleygoodbooks.co.uk.
They seized the cheese, they rolled it away, they carried it away, they carried it off. And at some point in this dairy-fueled chaos, Nottingham's mayor, Roby Swan, tried to intervene. So this is one of history's most undignified moments for a mayor, I'm going to say. He stands up, he tries to calm everyone down. And this is where we opened up, the cheese rolling down the hill, hurtling at him. He gets knocked down by a round of cheese rolling down the hill.
Is he dead?
The town mayor. No, he's not dead.
Okay.
So you can laugh.
Oh. What's his name?
Roby Swan.
Roby Swan. I'm just trying to think of some kind of funny thing. I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. But anyway.
I mean, that bit is quite funny, isn't it? Authorities attempted arrests, and I did wonder what the authorities consisted of in 1766. But several people were taken before like local justices, and the crowd responded by attacking the building where these people were being held. So they're being dragged off, some of the people, and then the mob would move to where they were being dragged off, and windows were smashed, threats were shouted.
Well, they're annoyed. Like, you know, if there's a famine or a lack of food, I don't think you specifically said famine, have you? But there's a lack of food. And these people have obviously been trying to get stuff for their families. I would imagine it's not just looting, it's looting with purpose, looting with some kind of moral compass.
I can't remember who
I don't know.
Someone said to me, if someone is stealing food, there's a problem, not with them, but with this situation.
Society. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what I recently read about, how shopkeepers and like convenience stores and the co-op and everything are having real problem with people stealing chocolate bars to the point where they're in some shops are putting chocolate bars in like containers, glass containers, kind of like with the alcohol when they put a lid on it, you know, a security device on it. That's something different. That's people stealing to order or stealing something convenient so that they can sell it on or whatever. But if people are stealing food to feed their kids, you know, in a Les Miserables style situation, then yeah, there's bigger problems. So they've gone to the sort of courthouse or whatever where these people are being held and put before the judges and whatever, and they're smashing windows, they're shouting threats. Pavement stones were ripped up. And in order eventually to stop the situation spiraling further, the detainees were just released, which didn't unfortunately restore order. It kind of did nothing of the fact, actually, because that night, Nottingham did what many towns did when they were faced with large-scale unrest. They sent for the military. So the authorities and the higher-ups in Nottingham called the military because they were like, look, we don't think this is calming down. It seems to be getting worse and worse. So a messenger rode to Derby, which is not that far. In the early morning, so the next morning, 3rd October, dragoons arrive in Nottingham. And a dragoon, I had to Google, is a mounted soldiers on horses, which, again, not to be blasé about it because we're now in modern warfare used to tanks and all sorts, but soldiers on horses would have been very intimidating at the time, right? That would have been a big deal. And here's where this slightly ridiculous story, it's quite ridiculous, where it takes a darker turn. The following evening, clashes erupted again, particularly around an area known as the New Change in the marketplace. If you know Nottingham, I do not, but you might. Did you go to the New Change in the marketplace?
I think so, yeah.
But this time, the soldiers fired their guns, and one man was fatally wounded. His name was William Eggleston, a farmer from Colston, which must be nearby. And I'm actually surprised there weren't more fatalities. You know? Accounts differ slightly. Some say he was killed on the spot. Others say he was shot in the leg and died later, but the result is the same. He unfortunately lost his life. A food riot that had started over pricing and fairness ended in a death of a farmer, one of the food producers, which is ironic. An inquest later recorded the verdict as an accidental death caused by a person unknown. I don't think if you go into a situation with a gun, brandishing a gun, that any death can be called accidental. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You might not have wanted to kill them, but you had the means to do so. So it can't really be.
You're going in armed,
accident.
You know?
Yeah.
Accident is a stretch. It's not like he was cleaning his gun and it went off or.
Yeah.
You know? So that is basically a very 18th century way of saying no one is accountable, no one's responsible. We're not going to punish anyone for the situation. But even that wasn't the end.
Okay.
There was a boat on the River Trent laden with cheese, which was seized. Laden with cheese. It was one man trying to escape with the cheese that he had salvaged from, I think, his stall.
Oh, right. Okay.
But he very greedily was trying to load up this boat that he found.
Yeah, but if it was his cheese.
Yeah, but basically.
He stole someone's boat.
He got the mob caught up with him.
Right.
He tried to negotiate with them. Oh, I'll sell it to you at a fair price, at pre-inflation prices. And they were like, nah, you know what?
Just give it to us.
We're just going to take the cheese. A windmill near Trent Bridge was reportedly sort of attacked, set fire to. Don't ask me why they're attacking windmills now. And the Riot Act was read, which is a formal proclamation ordering crowds to disperse under threat of felony charges. So basically, don't be in a group. You all go home, basically.
Is that where, read you the Riot Act comes from? Yeah. Or is it just a kind of
exactly that? Yeah. But basically, they're being threatened with execution. Go home, stop this, or we're going to literally charge you and you will be executed. So eventually, the presence of the military overwhelmed the local people and the unrest, and the riot subsided, which is lucky because it could have led to more fatalities. But the story stuck, partly because it's easy to laugh at. You know, cheese rolling down a hill, flattening the mayor, soldiers being deployed over Stilton. But underneath this comedy, there's something really serious. There's the food riots that weren't just about chaos for chaos's sake. They were about survival and about the distrust of the middleman and the fear that profit was being prioritized over people. This is what I mean. This story could have been set in modern day.
Yeah.
And it has happened time and time again in different incarnations, right? Around the world. Nottingham cheese riots fits the broader national pattern in 1766, when the rise in grain prices at the time triggered disturbances all across England. And it wasn't just an isolated incident, it was a flashpoint, but it reveals something deeply human, that when food becomes insecure, politeness evaporates.
Yeah.
Right? So was this a true crime? Technically, yes. We have theft, we have property damage, we have assault, we have military intervention, and we have a fatal shooting. But it also lives in that uncomfortable gray area between crime and protest. Were the rioters criminal? Would you do it if you were in their situation? Or were they enforcing what they believed was economic justice in a way because they didn't have other options? You know, history tends to remember that image of rolling cheese more than the context.
Yeah.
But William Eggleston's death reminds us it wasn't a harmless joke. It wasn't just a funny scenario in history, but very serious. So yeah, that's the Nottingham cheese riots.
And I'm sure, Dee, that a lot of people maybe, I don't know, like didn't say it was a famine, but I wonder if people did starve, if they're, you know, if the illnesses were rife because of like, you know, lack of like food. And we see it now. We see like British lamb going overseas. I remember we used to be able to go into the supermarket, buy big bit, you know, legs of lamb, all this kind of like British lamb, British lamb, British lamb. And you can still get it from the butcher, but you have to like pre-order it in our butcher. If you want like a leg of lamb, you have to pre-order it now. And it's like so expensive. But then if you go into the supermarket, you get New Zealand lamb, which is lovely, absolutely lovely. And it's so much cheaper, but it's still really expensive. And it's like, where's all the British lamb gone? It's sold at a premium.
It's bizarre. And all of these artificial networks or whatever are set up to benefit certain very specific people, those middlemen in the food industry and those higher up, obviously, at the cost of usually the food producers and the consumers, right? So it is really serious. And it is something that we see time and time again, you know, and it's not just an issue of like food scarcity, like you say, and people struggling at, you know, to get their nutritional values. It's the fact that when you have this cost of living crisis, it adds stress in every possible way. It affects people's health. It affects their mental health. It affects their relationships. Things like domestic violence incidences go up when there's stress in the household. Like all of these things.
I remember growing up in Scotland, like Pringle is like a really big like name. Pringle is like synonymous like with golfing jumpers and clothes and stuff. And there used to be like a golf shop where I lived as a teenager, and the Pringle stuff was all like, and I mean like really well priced, like not cheap, but not expensive at all. And then I remember being like later teens, early 20s, and a friend of mine went to work for Pringle, and Pringle like had rebranded as like a designer brand overseas, very Middle Eastern, very like Asian specific, very kind of like American, like to target these three areas. And that jumper that we would have bought for 20 quid was now £300. Like people would be wearing £500 jumper dresses. And I'm like, I've got a vintage Pringle jumper in my cupboard. I wonder how much I could sell that for. And it's just supply and demand of what people are willing to pay for things. And if you've got people that are willing to pay a ridiculous amount for cheese somewhere else in the world or the country, fair enough. But then I remember going back later on and seeing all the Pringle prices were skyrocketed because people were willing to pay a lot more overseas and in London.
So exactly that. It's supply and demand. And like you said, rebranding. So marketing, basically. And you know, what's hilarious is that my mom has a few specific brands that she watches on eBay and buys all of them, regardless of whether they fit anyone in the family, because she can adapt clothing, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And Pringle is one of the brands. Escada is another brand. She loves her Fit Flop shoes, like the ballet pump ones. But Pringle is one of them. And so sometimes I'll go around and my mum's dressed head to toe in Pringle that she's bought off eBay, looking like she's off to the golf course. She's never played golf a day in her life. So Pringle on eBay, super cheap if you do want to stock up.
Yeah. Stock up.
Yeah.
Make money out of it.
Isla, there's a book in my sources.
Yay, tell me.
I'll tell you, and you tell me if it'll ever be available at criminallygoodbooks.co. It's
Maybe.
very specific. George Rood, great name. The Crowd in History, a study of popular disturbances in France and England, 1730 to 1848.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm going to get that afterwards and see if there's anything in it. I mean, you know, like popular disturbances and things like that, you know, we stock things that are, you know, civil unrest, disturbances, riots, that kind of thing, because I think they're important for history, and it's important that people have stood up for their rights and,
And sometimes the crime is all the way to the top, right? So
that's so interesting. I love historical stuff.
I know, it's bonkers, this story. I've got a few other sources I want to say. Cook's Info, Nottingham Goose Fair, The Moral Economy of the English Crowd in the 18th Century, which is a journal article on academic.oup.com. Inspireculture.org.uk has got a bunch of stuff in their archives. Cheesed Off, Nottingham Food Riots, 1750 to 1800s, is on the Nottingham University of Nottingham website. Damn His Charity will have the cheese for naught, which is at libcom.org, so the website. And then Local Studies and Family History on nottinghamcitylibraries.co.uk, Role of Local Authorities in Provincial Hunger Riots of 1766 on cambridge.org, Morals, Markets and English Crowd in 1766 on JSTOR, which is journal article database. What else?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was what we used at university a lot. We've got Politics of Provision, Food Riots, Moral Economy and Market Transition in England, Cheese Riots and Dragoons, The Complete History of the Nottingham Goose Fair on notstv.com, Nottingham Rising on People's History. And we've got one more source, which is Visiting Nottinghamshire Archives.
Oh my gosh, you really did really go into this.
Yeah. I went on a cheese spiral.
Do they have a lot of cheese shops there? Is it still a big industry?
I don't know. You're the one that's been. I presume it's got a lot of cheese. I'm presuming it's still part of the...
Okay.
Let's Google cheeses from Nottingham.
Yeah. Well, there's one called the Cheese Shop, Flying Horse Walk, the Cheese Shop Nottingham.
Cropwell Bishop Creamery, Colwick cheese and dairy.
Oh my God, Long Clawson Dairy, Cropwell Bishop.
Yeah, we got lots of cheese.
Oh yeah, okay.
Nottingham might be actually heaven for me.
I think we need to.
Let's have our next meetup in Nottingham. Little spa hotel in Nottingham, get some cheese, sitting in the jacuzzi eating cheese. Yes, oh my God.
Yeah. Is anyone in Nottingham that would recommend anywhere to stay and to have like a cheese fest?
We want to hear from you if you've been to Nottingham.
I mean, it's only 2.5 hours.
Remember it more than Isla remembers.
We could meet there for late lunch today. It'd take like 2.5 hours to get there.
Should we wrap up and just go get some cheese? It might be halfway between us, or at least somewhere.
Do you know what? If I wasn't working today in the shop, I'd be so tempted just to do that, just to say that I had done it. I think we should do that one day, go to Nottingham and get cheese. I'd love that.
Nottingham. I'm going to see how far it is from both of us.
Yeah. 2.5 hours. Oh, I see what you mean. It's only an hour for you.
And how far for you?
2.5.
I mean, that's not great, is it?
No.
All right. Maybe not today.
Maybe not today. Well, you could go.
Maybe.
You've been there in an hour.
Get in the car and just
get down. Yeah.
It's so tempting. No, not today. I want to go with you. Shall we?
Yes. Palate cleanser. I feel like that was a palate cleanser.
I know, from last week, but this is quite a fun one. Well, again, it's about serious issues, but my quiz today, food riots through history.
Okay, right, I'm ready. I will know nothing about this.
I think you'll be good at guessing a lot of these, okay? The French Revolution is often said to have been triggered by shortages of A, cheese, B, wine, C, bread, D, potatoes.
I mean, they're French and they love their wine, so I'm going to say B, wine. No.
C, bread. They also love their bread.
Bloody hell. Okay.
And their cheese and their wine and their potatoes, but it's
it was their bread. Okay, fair enough.
The 1917 bread riots helped spark which revolution? A, the American Revolution, B, the Russian Revolution, C, the Mexican Revolution, or D, the Chinese Revolution?
American.
The Russian Revolution of 1917.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, honestly, when you were trying to give me a clue, and I was like, should I go with something else? Because I thought you were like trying to tell me it should be something else. That's so bad. Sorry.
Food shortages and soaring bread prices. Because remember, it's normally about grains, right? Which is why bread is often affected. Bread prices in Petrograd triggered mass protests led largely by women textile workers. So quite a lot of them are women running these food riots. What began as queues outside bakeries turned into strikes, marches, clashes with police as crowds demanded bread and peace. The unrest escalated when soldiers refused to fire on demonstrators and instead joined them.
Yeah.
Within days, the Tsar abdicated and the February Revolution toppled centuries of the Romanov rule. The bread riots were not just about hunger, they ignited the collapse of Imperial Russia. So that was a case of things getting just so bad that they were like, no, and even if we lose our lives fighting this, well, we're going to die anyway. So, okay, question 3.
Yep.
The butter riots of 1884 occurred in A, Ireland, B, Denmark, C, USA, or D, Germany.
Ireland.
No, the butter riots of 1884 were in New York City. So again, soaring food prices in New York, particularly of butter, meat, and flour.
Milk. Okay.
So they obviously experimented with the names, the meat riots or the flour riots, and settled on butter riots. They sparked protests amongst working class women. Again, the women were quite often left to be the ones to find the food, source the food, feed the family. So they are the ones that would have had the stress of the higher cost of living. So in the Lower East Side, economic hardship was deepening. And so these women organized demonstrations demanding lower prices and in some cases looted shops accused of profiteering. So basically taking advantage of the situation, hiking up prices, making and causing inflation so that everything gets out of the people's grasp price-wise. The riots reflected broader anxieties about industrial capitalism, wage stagnation, and urban poverty in this Gilded Age America. So it was much smaller in scale than the European food riots, but it highlighted the central role that women often play in food price protests and community survival. Okay, question 4. The rice riots of 1918 took place in A, China, B, India, C, Japan, or D, Thailand. Rice riots of 1918. China, India, Japan, Thailand.
India.
Japan. Japan's 1918 rice riots began in fishing villages where women protested rising rice prices, and quickly it spread nationwide. It was triggered by wartime inflation, and unrest escalated into strikes, looting, attacks on rice merchants and government offices. Over 700,000 people were involved in disturbances across the country. And Japan is not a large country with a super high population, so that is a huge percentage.
A huge number.
The scale of protests forced the resignation of Prime Minister Terauchi Masataki and marked a turning point in Japanese politics, showing that food instability could destabilize even such a stable, industrializing imperial power. Okay, last question.
Okay, got to get one of them right.
The Salt March, led by Gandhi in 1930, protested against food spoilage laws, B, British salt taxation, C, rice monopolies, D, sugar export bans.
Can I go with B?
British salt taxation's correct.
Yeah. Yes. I was either going to go for B or A, who's going to be my wild card. So I was like, oh, spoilage and salt.
You know, I would never steer you astray on purpose.
Okay.
So in 1930, Gandhi led a 240-mile march to the Arabian Sea to protest the British monopoly and tax on salt, which was obviously a basic necessity. Though not a riot in the traditional sense, the Salt March sparked widespread civil disobedience as Indians illegally started producing their own salt. So basically, if you're producing salt, you have to pay tax on it, or you have to pay official people.
Right, okay.
So, and this tax was going to the Brits because they were still in charge of, colonizing India, basically. Yeah, so this act symbolizes resistance to colonial economic control over everyday essentials. The campaign led to mass arrests, global media attention, and strengthened the Indian independence movement, demonstrating how control over food staples could become a powerful tool to political resistance. So
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So locally, people were trying to make their own salt, and the Brits were like, no, we want some of that. You need to give us money if you want to do something that you've probably done for centuries.
Either you buy your salt from us British colonizers, or if you do produce it yourself, you have to pay us a percentage. And it was making the salt sort of, I mean, it's an incredibly unfair system, as is colonizing a nation. But also it was putting salt out of, it was pricing people out of the market for salt. It was something that is incredibly important for food preservation, especially pre-refrigerators. And
Yeah, exactly. Oh, interesting. Well, I got 1 out of 5. Thank you.
Nice work. So yeah, that's our very food-based podcast episode, which has made me incredibly hungry for cheese.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go and have some cheese now.
Yeah, and I'm going to think about how lucky I am to be able to have this cheese, and I'm going to think about those rioters that help hopefully counteract a bit of inflation, and maybe think about sparking my own riot.
What cheese is your favorite?
Like I said, I love a mozzarella, I love a camembert, I love a brie.
What about a delisted? Is it delisted or Bourgogne or something? I love that one.
Like garlicky?
No, it's like a goat's. I think it's like a goat's cheese.
Yeah. I do like a blue cheese. It's really hard to get vegetarian parmesans and hard cheeses because they use rennet. I'll try most cheeses.
I think I might go to the deli across from the house and get some cheese now.
Love a bit of Wensleydale with apricot or cranberry.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, crumbly Wensleydale.
Thinking Bishop, remember?
Oh, it was proper stinking.
Yeah, but tasted delicious.
It did. It did. Right, let's go and get our cheese then.
Right, we're going to go and have cheese. We love you.
We love you.
Stars, we love cheese. We love each other.
And we definitely do love each other. And let us know about your cheese needs.
Oh, I'm going to make a post just about cheese, I think, with regard to this one. And
definitely. We're going to have so much fun on this.
Yeah. All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Like this episode? Want more? Come visit me, Isla, at Crimley Good Books in the heart of York. We're an independent bookshop dedicated entirely to crime. From cosy mysteries to gritty thrillers, historical whodunits to juicy true crime. We've got signed editions, special gifts and plenty of recommendations for your next obsession. We also host a bunch of awesome author events. Can't make it in person? Visit us online at crimleygoodbooks.co.uk.